The neighborhood of Pisach was quiet in the wrong way. Streets curved like serpents. Shadows stretched long and lazy, and the faint smell of decay lingered beneath the flower beds and hedges. Children rarely played outside after sunset, and the adults kept their doors tightly shut, glancing nervously at the alleyways and abandoned corners. But even among all that silence, one place stood apart. Number 31. It was a house that almost seemed to breathe, exhaling an old, damp air that stuck to the bones. The paint had faded to a gray that matched the shadows, and the windows reflected light like eyes watching from behind curtains. People in Pisach didn't often pass close to the house. Even the mailman, a man who had seen far too many things to scare easily, would throw letters through the gate and leave quickly. The grocer refused deliveries to the home after dusk. Yet, the Welsits family had moved in for peace and quiet. Mr. and Mrs. Welsits, kind, careful people, thought the house would be perfect. Their adopted son, Sam, was 18, with a quiet intensity that made him seem older than his years. While his parents fussed over the garden and patio, Sam claimed the attic as his own. It was a sanctuary, filled with canvases, paints, and brushes. Hours passed unnoticed there, the smell of oil, paint, and turpentine mixing with the dust and warmth of the enclosed space. Sam painted with fervor, and the walls slowly filled with landscapes, abstract shapes, and occasionally, the careful study of human faces. At first, the house was tranquil. The Welsits felt relief from the city's noise and their own anxieties. Sam painted, laughed quietly to himself, and sometimes whispered to the wind when he thought no one could hear. But even in that calm, the air felt charged, as though the walls themselves were listening, waiting. June came, bright and sharp, and with it a day that would change everything. The 6th of June, 66 dawned unusually still. Sam ascended the narrow attic stairs with a mixture of anticipation and fatigue. He had left a canvas out the night before, a blank sheet stretched tight, ready for new creation. He had plans to paint a landscape, a small tribute to the dunes and meadows of Pisach he glimpsed while wandering the alleyway paths. But when he entered the attic, he froze. On the canvas was a portrait. It was him. Sam stared. Every detail, every angle, even his half-smile was captured. The scar that ran across his forehead, small and jagged, was etched perfectly into the painting. It was impossible. He had painted it blank. No one had entered. No one knew his schedule. First, he thought of his father, Mr. Welsits. Perhaps it was some strange surprise. Perhaps a gift waiting for him. But when he questioned his father, Mr. Welsits only shook his head, bewildered. He hadn't touched the canvas. Neither had his mother. No one had. Sam shivered. Something was wrong. He told himself to wait, that perhaps there was a rational explanation, that the 15th of the month might hold some answer. But the sense of being watched lingered, prickling at the base of his neck, crawling under his skin. That night, the Welsits were awakened. A sound from above, soft at first, then growing louder. Footsteps on the wooden floorboard of the attic, dragging, scraping, circling. Mrs. Welsits called to her husband. Sam joined them, his heart thudding so violently he feared it might burst. They climbed the stairs together. The attic door creaked open. Every painting Sam had created over months, perhaps years, now had the same face superimposed on it, his own, staring back with uncanny intensity. The scar on the forehead, the eyes wide, unblinking, almost alive. It was impossible, terrifying, unreal. The Welsits were paralyzed by fear. Sam felt a coldness in his chest, an icy hand gripping his heart. Something had entered the house that could not belong. By morning, they had called the parish priest. He arrived with an assistant, carrying crucifixes, salt, and holy water. When the assistant saw Sam, he recoiled slightly, whispering something under his breath that made the hair on Sam's arm stand straight. Even the priest looked concerned, but kept his voice calm. He blessed the house and the attic, prayed fervently, and tried to calm the family, but the shadows in the corners of the room seemed to tremble at his words. 2 days later, Mrs. Welsits went to the community clinic for her routine treatment of rheumatism. While in the waiting room, a nurse named Ms. Coe froze when she saw Sam. Her face went pale, and she stepped back involuntarily. The Welsits noticed immediately and invited her aside. Ms. Coe confessed in hushed tones. She had seen Sam before, she said, in the hospital morgue, along with a woman. They were said to have died in a planned car accident. A man drowning in debts, a woman escaping life through alcohol, a child lost before birth. The story was tragic, horrific, unforgettable. Sam listened, horrified, shaking his head. He was not the Mark Svelte she was describing. He had never been there before. He had never married. He had never been part of that doomed story. Ms. Coe jumped back in fright when she realized the truth. The resemblance, she admitted, was uncanny. And yet, something about Sam, something about his presence, resonated with the pain she had seen before. It was as if the dead woman, Maria, was searching for something in him, identifying with him, seeing echoes of her own tragedy reflected in his life. The Welsits felt the weight of the town's behavior finally make sense. People had always avoided them, whispered in hallways, shifted in fear when the family passed. The grocer, the mailman, even neighbors. Everyone understood something the Welsits could not. Fear is a living thing in Pisach. It grows, it breathes, it takes shape. The Welsits, desperate for answers, organized a seance. A local medium was summoned. Candles lit, incense smoked, and the attic was prepared. The atmosphere was thick with dread, the air heavy and sweet with fear and salt. The medium closed her eyes and began chanting, her voice low, resonant, almost mechanical in rhythm. The shadows seemed to shiver. The candles flickered violently, though there was no wind. Then the figure appeared. It was Maria, her face pale, lips twisted in anguish, eyes hollow yet burning with recognition. She circled Sam slowly, whispering names, murmuring curses, pleading, crying. The medium's assistant gasped, recoiling, while Sam could only stare, unable to speak. Maria's spirit revealed the agony of losing her unborn child, the bitterness of betrayal, the violence that had ended her life. She had followed the essence she thought was Mark Svelte's, and it was drawn inexplicably to Sam. The attic, the paintings, the eeriness of number 31. All of it was a convergence of restless souls, seeking resolution that would never come. The Welsits wept, prayed, and begged for mercy. The medium, shaking, finally managed to disperse the spirit temporarily, but the house remained charged with tension. Despite the blessings, prayers, and protective rituals, the Welsits knew their time at number 31 was limited. Shadows shifted unnaturally. Whispers filled the halls. Footsteps echoed in rooms with no feet, and Sam's attic became a place of dread rather than inspiration. On a rainy night, as lightning cracked the sky and wind howled through the alleyways, the Welsits packed their belongings. Sam paused, glancing at the attic one last time, sensing eyes watching from the shadows. A cold, suffocating presence seemed to follow them to the car, invisible but insistent. As they drove away, their headlights caught the alley in brief flashes. Number 31 loomed behind them, dark and accusing. Then, just as the family rounded the corner, a car lost control. Sam, in a desperate attempt to avoid a collision, swerved, and the vehicle flipped violently, throwing him from life into death. The Welsits mourned, but Pisach whispered louder than grief. Number 31 remains, empty, waiting. Pisach has learned not to approach too closely. Children dare not linger near the alley. Locals avoid it after dusk. Travelers sometimes glimpse figures in the windows, shadowy shapes that vanish when approached. Paintings that seem to appear, etched with faces and scars, are said to bloom spontaneously within the attic. Whispers float in the alley at night, voices crying, pleading, or laughing unnaturally. Some swear they see a young man in the attic, painting, moving brushes in empty air. Others claim they hear a woman's laughter mingling with sobs, carried down the alley like wind through a broken tree. The Welsits are gone, but the presence remains. Number 31 watches, listens, remembers. Pisach whispers its warnings. Shadows linger in corners. Footsteps echo where none should tread, and the air itself grows thick with unease. Those who dare enter number 31 speak of dread that is not merely fear, but knowledge. The house remembers. The alley remembers. The dead remember. And some things, once awakened, never forgive.